Hey guys, how you doing? This is Benjamin with Benjamin Exotics, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing and just giving a complete guide to ball python humidity. This is something that I know for a lot of new keepers can be kind of tricky because all online, you hear a bunch of different numbers, right? You hear 60%, 80%, 90%, even, 50%. And there's so many questions. What is the right number? How do I increase humidity? Is there a wrong way to increase it? And we're going to go over all that in this video. So this is more of a video for the new ball python keeper. If you are an experienced one, you can watch this just to refresh your memory as well. So first thing we need to know before we even start talking about percentages and stuff of how much humidity should be in the air, we need to know what is humidity. Humidity is basically, in the most basic terms, it's the amount of moisture or the amount of water particles in the air. And all this does for the ball pythons is it does two things. Number one, it keeps their scales hydrated, okay? Ball pythons are not really meant to be in, lower, like 30 to 40% humidity environments. They can be in it for a while and they're not going to die, but their scales can take a little bit of a beating and get dried out. And we want our ball python scales to be very hydrated and very, the best they can be, because when they're hydrated, the snakes just feel happy, and if they're not hydrated and if they're not, at the correct humidity, the ball pythons might not even eat. And if you're ever going to consider breeding, it's very important to have your humidity be on point. Another thing, and another reason that we have to understand when to rise humidity, is because ball pythons naturally in the wild live under the ground. And whenever a snake goes into shed, they produce this, I don't want to call it like a secretion, but they produce this oil under their scales. And if you go in your ball python room at night, especially if you have a glass tank and the snake is pressed against it, you can actually see it, and it actually will glow like a green, yellow, or even sometimes a purple, so it's really cool. What this oil does is that it lubricates the snake's scales, so when it goes and it scrapes against a rock, the snake is able to get it off very easily without having to fight it very much. That's why your ball python's eyes will turn blue. That's some of the oil being seen, because if you didn't know, ball pythons do have a scale that goes right over their eyes. And the only thing with ball pythons is that their body isn't used to producing a lot of this oil, because they're normally in a humid environment, and that humid environment is going to let some of that moisture get into the scale and act like a lubricant. With corn snakes and stuff like that, they don't have shedding problems most of the time because our bodies are adapted to produce a lot of this oil. So they can just go up against a rock and rub. Unfortunately, ball pythons don't have that kind of, luxury, so they do have to be in places that are humid, and they will seek out even humid hides in the wild when they're going into shed. So if you guys want to have your ball pythons have good sheds, you want to bump the humidity up just a little bit once they're going into shed. Now let's talk numbers, because this is the biggest thing. I've been keeping ball pythons for about 6 years, and to be honest, there isn't an exact number that always works. It's not like heating, right? We know, most people that keep ball pythons know that for heating a ball python, you want the hot spot, the belly heat, to be at around 90 degrees, and ambient air temperature on the hot side to be about 85. That's not, fraught with. We all know that, and that's a pretty easy thing to find out. But humidity is much more different, because I have some snakes that can shed fine in 50% humidity, and I have some snakes like this guy that prefer 70 to 80%. So you guys really do have to do a little bit of experimenting with your pet snake. But as a general rule of thumb, my snake's scales stay hydrated and do the best, normally just when they're in their normal living conditions, between 55 and 60% humidity. Now it could be a little bit higher or a little bit lower depending on the ball python. But overall, I've had the best success with that, so that's what I recommend to you guys. And I wish I could get you a close-up with the camera, but when I say dehydrated, all you're going to see is, like, when you look at your ball python scale, it's going to look a little bit lighter than it should be, and it'll actually have, like, little wrinkles and stuff in it, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about dehydration. I actually might put a picture up right now on the screen. Actually, probably not, because my editing software doesn't do that, but basically, you can Google it, just ball python dehydrated scale. That's what we're talking about, and that's why we want our ambient, normal humidity to be around 55 to 60%. Now, when we're going into shed, this is something that's there's a much bigger range, because as I said, some of my ball pythons can shed in 50% humidity, and some of them need 70%. As a general rule of thumb, I would say 70 to 80% humidity is what your guys are going to want. It's a great idea to get a hygrometer, which is something that measures the humidity, but if you guys really want to, just a little container or a hide box with paper towel, spray it down, has a solid top lid, should be fine for shedding. So besides that, that's the basics of humidity. Humidity is not a too complicated topic, and ball pythons are pretty forgiving. There are some other snakes like Brazilian rainbow boas and green tree pythons that can actually die if the humidity levels are not right. But these ball pythons, these guys are very tough and very bulletproof. So don't be freaking out if your humidity is not on point. Just try things. And you know what? If your snake is eating and shedding fine, you guys should have no problem figuring out what your humidity is for your tank. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And of course, if you like the channel, consider subscribing. If you guys have any questions about what your setup is, what the perfect humidity for your snake would be, or just any comments or questions at all, please leave it down in the comment section below. I hope you guys did benefit and enjoy this video very much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.